Welcome to Linux Saloon, a place to discuss tech, open source, and where Linux is always on tap. Each show we have a talk about Linux projects such as distribution, desktop environment, or, whatever. Anything that is Linux tech and open source related is on the table for discussion. I'm Nate, Linux fitness and vintage tech enthusiast with an almost unhealthy obsession with the openSUSE project and apparently some network issues. So I don't know if it's my provider or if it was internal. My access points all just decided they would shut off and restart on me. So thank you, Aruba. You have been wonderful today. Anyway, so I have a fantastic panel of people. How is everybody tonight?
Excellent.
So just as we started, full scale for me, I can see his beautiful face again. Everyone is moving smooth, but apparently no one in the Discord can see me. So that's a gift to you.
I'm disappointed, Nate. I can't see your face. Disappointed. I like the human interaction.
I'm looking at the YouTube feed, and you're moving around on the YouTube feed.
Yeah. Who knows? Yay, Discord. I don't know what's going on. Maybe it's me. Maybe it's Discord. Maybe it's everybody. Or maybe it's nobody. Well, anyway, but if you've been so kind as to hit the like button. If you don't like this, hit that dislike button twice. And then please subscribe either way. And that'd be great. You can also join the chat here in Discord and maybe see us. Or and also we have, in between, we can talk on Telegram and Discord in the community. Fantastic Linux Saloon community that you can be chatting with about all kinds of nerdy topics. Maybe nerdy is not the nicest way of putting it, but I like to say I'm a bit of a nerd. I like tech. So be sure to do that straw poll, cubicalnate.com/polls. And we're going to be talking about that fairly soon. But it's about, what do you sandbox some of your applications in Linux, specifically to limit their potential effect on your system? So multiple answers are allowed. So go ahead and knock that out at your earliest convenience, whenever that may be. So also, I guess we'll go ahead and start this off with what have you been doing in Linux and tech? So before we started here, PC TLC showing as was that Surface
me.
Go? Yes. Colin.
Yeah.
As also known as Colin.
Yeah, no, Surface.
Yeah. So I don't know if maybe you had anything you want to, like, what were you doing with that? And I saw I was running Cosmic? And
it's running Cosmic. Yep.
Okay, which Surface Go is that? Like, what do you know what year?
No, I don't know what year. Actually, I wouldn't have a clue what year it is. But I think it's one of the first ones. It's not
okay.
It's not. There's.
We usually just try to start rambling until he comes back.
Where's the chat? Where's the chat? Somebody in chat tell us that we're still live.
All right. I don't know if you again want to say you installed what on there. I think we're back up.
Yeah. I was using this Surface Go, plugging it into a mixer because it's still got a 3.5 auxiliary, which is pretty handy. And I didn't even know that. I was having trouble finding a device to run the karaoke at the tavern, but that plugs into the mixer pretty well, so I'm happy with that. And I'm using a Flatpak called FreeTube. I don't know if anyone's heard of that. You can actually grab music from the tube and sort of helps you create.
Garden Fair weekend. So Sweetie got all my time last week.
Gotcha. Not a problem, man.
But I'll be back up and running this coming week.
Okay.
We're back up now. Sorry about that.
Okay.
Thanks. Well, good morning.
All my access points just decided to shut off, so I just restarted everything in the house just now. Anyway, I'm back up for as long as she lasts. Anyway, well, apparently I'm not a very good IT manager, so my network just, decided it would just do its own thing, and its own thing wasn't very practical for me.
See, the key word is you're the IT manager. You're not the IT man necessarily, but you manage the people that do the IT, right?
Yeah, I have to manage myself and one other guy, and we keep our networks going just fine there. So I don't know. I haven't like whatever. It's a fluke. These things happen. Every once in a while, computers
yeah.
do crazy things. So, all right, let's try this again. Colin, you had.
Yeah, wow. Am I repeating myself? Am I on repeat?
Yeah, let's go ahead and just let's do a mulligan on that.
I can try.
We'll pretend. That was a dress rehearsal, so we'll go again, I guess. So you got to Surface
Okay.
Go. We're not sure what year it is. You were doing karaoke with the machine, and that's when my network just kind of decided it would just do something. So, what software do you use for karaoke? That's what I'd like to know.
FreeTube. There's a Flatpak called FreeTube.
FreeTube, okay.
FREE.
I think I should know that one.
And it connects to the YouTube, and you can make your own playlists and all that sort of thing, and you can just do search like you'd normally do on YouTube and pick up all your music and organize it as such. So I didn't know about this until for a little while, and then discovered it and tried to use it here at home and realized how good it was. So that's what I'm using. It's quite a handy little application, actually. So yeah, Flatpak's got some good stuff, I must say. So it's available for Windows too, but not that really matters too much for our discussions here. But yeah, so that's what I'm doing with that, and it's good to see the Cosmic Desktop is updated on a regular basis recently. So it's starting to evolve quite nicely. So that's what I've been up to. That's my little getaway on a Sunday at work, because we finish early on a Sunday. So we go to the tavern, have a bit of fun, and chill out a bit. And I don't know if you heard when I was talking before. This has got a 3.5 auxiliary in it. So that's and that connects to the mixer. So I wasn't really happy with the sound going through the mixer, but I don't know too much about mixers, but it seems to be okay. The first time I used FreeTube, I had to change over to YouTube and start running through YouTube because the sound wasn't the best. But I've got myself some adapters so I can try and different things. So it's interesting. I don't think there's anything wrong with the sound on the Cosmic Desktop or anything like that, as far as I know, because it sounds good at home. So it works well at home. But they're also got a JBL. I've got a JBL party box here I bought not long ago. They got an old JBL speaker, so it doesn't work as good as my one as far as connections are concerned. So I can connect directly into the speaker with a 3.5. So that's handy. But the mixers are a totally different thing. But it seems to be working good enough at the moment. I'm pretty happy with that.
Well, that's cool. So the you said Cosmic Desktop, is it running the Cosmic OS, so the Pop OS Cosmic, or is it a different running on like Arch or something else?
No, it's Arch Linux. It's Arch with Cosmic. So I've got my little scripts that I run. I've been installing Arch these days with the actual Arch ISO. So as long as I don't have other partitions that I have to get around, if I'm doing a full install on a hard drive, which this thing is only like 64 gigs or something. So if I do a reinstall, I don't have nothing on there that I need to save or anything. If I do, I just drop it into a USB or whatever, and then I just do a full install and with the Arch ISO itself. So it's the standard Arch install, and then I just use my scripts to install the rest of the pieces that I need. So yes, I've got on GitHub, I have a desktop script that I can choose a lot of different desktops, and I've curated it as such that I install the particular apps that I want, and also I've got a script that runs and installs the chaotic AUR, and also adds a little thing in the pacman.conf at the end of the line to add the chaotic AUR script in there and whatever. So yeah, that all works really well. Been messing around with a lot of that stuff, so it's pretty handy. But I've been doing some testing and it works pretty well. So I'm happy with that. And that's
Sweet.
the result. Is yeah, it's good.
Now, you've had that Surface Go for quite a while, right? A few years
Have, yeah.
anyway. Still runs well for you.
I actually bought one. It runs perfect. I'll tell you what, Cosmic, something about, I don't know, this rusting. I don't know how good this rusting. There's a lot of people saying don't like rust, and some people say they do, whatever.
Bag on whether something runs well or doesn't. Like for some people, rust seems to be fine. For others, maybe not as much, but I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Well, it's straight out Wayland as well, so that seems to work pretty well. So I don't have many issues with that either. So far, but I only use it for simple things anyway. Just for when I'm away at camp, I just use it for checking emails and things like that, or I'm using my phone. But emails are good to do on. I like writing emails on computer. I don't like doing so much on phone, to be honest. I'm pretty old school when it comes to that. I don't know about you guys, but it's the way I like to do it.
So, I'm just curious. You say you liked it that way. Why? Is there a specific reason why?
I just like to see emails and read them on a big screen. I think it's just the way my brain's wired, I think.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't like doing a lot of things on the phone, to be honest, except for maybe just, checking out some videos or whatever, but that's about it. I prefer to do things on a desktop environment, to be honest.
Mm-hmm. I get
Doesn't surprise you when you meet someone who does use their phone for most of the stuff, and you're like, how do you deal with like websites that aren't mobile friendly, or
Oh, I know. I know.
So many things.
Yeah.
Yeah, I honestly I have a hard time.
Thing.
I have a hard time like when I see people like they can do everything from their phone. In fact, there's a guy I work with. He's I don't want to say. I want to be careful how I say this. Because I don't have permission to say this. But anyway, he does a lot of things from his phone. The way he uses, I can't remember what the application is called. So he can get to his desktop to do specific functions anywhere. Like PC Anywhere or something. I can't remember what it's called. It's one of those. Like, it's kind of like a Team Viewer or Rust Desk, but it's just another. It's not AnyDesk, but something like that. And he's able to go in and do things from his phone. I'm like, how can you do that? I mean, he's of my age, so I would think that he would not be very phone friendly, just because. And but he's able to do these things like pretty astoundingly from his phone. Maybe it's just a learned thing, but yeah, no, I can't. I have a hard time. So this may sound one level further insane, which is kind of why I asked you this question earlier. I always prefer to read emails on the computer. I like the larger desktop. I like having the panes, the way it's laid out. Like I use Thunderbird, and so it works really well for me. Maybe I should try Betterbird out. I don't know, but the only kind of emails I'll read on my phone is to delete the junk email, and I won't actually read anything on the phone, and that's how I operate there. And also, I'm actually so bad now. I don't even want to read text on my phone. It's not that I can't read it, and then don't make any like your eyes are getting old jokes. And Mike, that's hilarious. Anyway, it's not that I can't read the phone. That's not the issue. Is that I'm not comfortable. Like I feel like I'm not capable of responding properly. So I won't even respond to text messages very often with the phone. I'll do it from the computer instead. I'll send the text messages from that because it's just way easier for me to. I can look at everything. I can copy any pictures that I need in there for reference or whatever. Because you just can't do it on the phone. I don't care. It's just not possible. If someone does it, they're basically voodoo magic. They're wizards. So yeah, no, I get it.
Yeah, I don't mind text messages. Text messages are fine for me. I mean, they've been around for a long time, so yeah, I think we get used to that. Sometimes it's hard to remember where you got a message from. Was it on this social media, or was it on text message? Was it on this? Was it on that? And you wanted to show somebody something, and then you're thinking, where did I see that? There's so many social medias that you could have. It becomes the lines get blurred sometimes, to be honest. But yeah,
that's good times. So, I guess all that saying, you're still using your Surface Go that you bought some years back, running Cosmic Desktop on Arch Linux that you turned into a karaoke machine with FreeTube with the Flatpak. Did I sum it all up? That's awesome.
Summed up nicely. And by the way, my son works with me away now as well in the same site. Got him a job there, and I bought him a Surface Go off eBay, and he's a slightly bigger hard drive, and he's running Arch Linux with the Cosmic Desktop as well. So he seems to cope with that. He's always run Linux anyway. Whatever I put on there, he'll just use. He's pretty adaptable. So yeah, he's and that's running quite well as well. So yeah, it runs good.
Well, that's fantastic. Is he into Linux very much then, or is he just kind of whatever?
He doesn't know much about it. I just tell him to update it. So just update your Have you updated? No, or update it.
Gotcha.
Sometimes I don't update mine for 3 weeks at a time. But, I use the long-term support kernel in Arch. That way you don't have many issues, to be honest. So that's the safest way to do it anyway, if you're going to be not updating for 3 weeks. Sometimes it can be very hard to update at camp. So many people using the Wi-Fi. It's just hard to update Linux. I do it on my last day when people go on to work and I'm flying out. There's no one there. No, update it before I leave.
And you're home for a week at a time? Is that how it works? Like you're
gone
okay.
Gone for 3, home for 1. Yeah.
Okay. Gotcha. I suppose that's kind of fun. We have like a week.
Yeah, it's pretty good.
Yeah. A block of.
It's not a bad lifestyle.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, neat. Very cool. All right. Well, I will have a link to the FreeTube Flat Hub app, Flatpak, in the show notes.
Yeah, check it out if you're into karaoke or music itself, just on YouTube or whatever. It does, it also doesn't have the. I don't know if I could say it on here, to be honest, because we are on YouTube, so it does. Cut out certain things at the start of the video so you don't have to deal with it. I won't say.
I got you.
Just in case. Yeah, but so it makes it the videos a lot more cleaner to use rather than have to deal with all the other stuff that comes along. If that makes any sense. That's why it's also handy to use that app. Yeah, okay. It's good to be here anyway. It's been a while. Yeah. I had struggled to catch up with you guys the last time I was here, and the time before I think you weren't on in March. I think it was. You didn't have one, so.
Yep, I was down for one in March.
But, yeah.
Mm-hmm. It's been a couple months, I think. Anyway, so it's good to see you again, Colin.
Yeah.
So we had
Rock
was on earlier today with the early edition. It was pretty nice. It was kind of like good old times. GOG. GOT. Anyway. All right. I guess we'll go ahead and move on to the straw poll. If you haven't voted on that already, go to keepinglit.com/straw poll. There you got a straw poll right there for voting on what you'd like to about your sandbox usage. And Eris, you can go ahead and just take it away. Take the mic away from me whenever you feel ready to say, shh. I'm good with that.
Okay. Let me see. I think I did get some comments. First comments. Sand is annoying. It gets everywhere. And could also cause some chafing.
It's true.
And then somebody else said, yes, I have been in some game jams. Since game jams are evaluated by the participant, one has to run other people's games. And I really don't want to just run other people's stuff without some protection. And then somebody else said,
do that then? Do they do it in like I'm curious now, like, for whoever did that, do you just put it like in a Docker type container and like isolate it, or do you do something else?
They didn't specify. I guess they just voted. It said a position was posted last time about native packages polluting their file system. I'd argue this was also a problem with Docker and Flatpak, etc. They may they may have not known it. It's just another packaging system. All have gotten better at this. I specifically hated Docker, Podman, pollution, and images left in limbo as they are huge space wasters. With each specific commands, if you want to remove config or dangling files, but in some cases like databases, but in some cases like database, install you want to upgrade but not remove your data or configuration. So it's just knowing why and options to get what you want. And as far as the poll, let me refresh one last time. Number one answer for do you use a sandbox with some of your applications in Linux to specifically limit their potential effect on your system? The number one answer was I use Flatpak for that. And then follow up by I use a container for that. Flatpak 35, container 23. I use a virtual machine 19%. I don't use any 10%. I use Snapd for that 6%. Tux Penguin got 6% of the vote, and nobody picked FireJoe, and nobody said other.
Yeah, I think it's an interesting statement being made on the argument that the Docker and Flatpak polluting or what let's see, polluting up your system or leaving things in your system. So I know that when you remove a Flatpak now, and again things have changed, but like if you remove a Flatpak, you can actually remove the configuration file along with that, so as though it never even happened. And yeah, it's interesting. It's an interesting statement. No, I'm less worried about cluttering up an openSUSE Tumbleweed system, because as you keep rolling, it does kind of prune things out that are no longer compatible over time. So if you do have some orphan packages and you failed to clean your orphan packages, they will eventually clean themselves out, for what it's worth. I don't know, Dale, do you have you noticed that also as being the way it works for you?
Yeah, every now and then I'll go in there because I do a lot of install Flatpak back to RPMs, back and forth. And I know sometimes you know what, I'm probably getting cluttered by now. I need to go clean it up, and there's nothing to clean up because it's already done it.
And that also kind
I
of
guess
dovetails.
depends, because sometimes
Yeah, go ahead, Eric.
All right. Okay. Yeah, I was just going to say sometimes it depends on if you only do things from the command line. A lot of times I've noticed that it'll leave things behind, like if you're removing things. But if you're using different tools like Warehouse or Bazaar and stuff like that, they'll often prompt you, do you want to delete any of the leftover data? And there's even, I think in Warehouse, there's just a general sort of clean up any leftover data. And on occasion, there'll be stuff there, but it's because most of the data that's left behind would be just a configuration file and stuff like that. It's going to be pretty small. So it's still cruft, but it's like, little bits of cruft, not massive, like leftover junk. So, but yeah, I mean, it can, because I mean, if you think about like if you use apps, you do sort of an auto uninstall or a purge, you can do those types of things to clear extra data. But yeah, Flatpak, I think by default doesn't really do that, especially with like configuration stuff, unless you tell it to. So
yeah, I think in Discover it does ask if you want to remove the configuration files when you remove a Flatpak. So that might be a Discover thing. And I know that you can go in and there's a command line to kind of clean up things as well. And then yeah, and Anrita says, I love Warehouse because of that feature, There's but there's another app called Flat Sweep. I think that's interesting. And actually, I was gonna, if that's okay, Eric. I didn't really ask if this is okay ahead of time, but you were doing some work on determining Flatpak versus native packages. You're doing some back and forth on that. Did you want to maybe talk about that a little bit, or is this not the right time for that?
No, that's fine. I mean, this was just general stuff I was looking at. I've been trying to figure out some things about like what's my next distro going to be. I had been using Pop! OS 2204 with GNOME on my main laptop, the XPS, and it's kind of long in the tooth at this point, and obviously they've moved to Cosmic, and so they're not really going to support the extensions and stuff they had done before. So I've tried a few things. I went to Linux Mint, and it was fine. I already have Mint on my desktop, so I felt like, well, this is an opportunity for me to try something else. So I tried, and I'm using right now Cachy, and I mean, it's fine. I'm kind of over Arch at this point. I've just the updating frequently, and the nature of sort of Cachy itself. I've noticed that the any of the DKAMS stuff, so like the kernel packages, the kernel modules, they tend to take, at least on my system for some reason, they take a long time. So when I do like an update with a kernel, it takes like 10 minutes or more, which, I mean, again, it sounds silly. Like, of course, it's not like glacial time, but it just seems like, and I'm guessing that's because of all of the customization they've done to the kernel, that it just takes a little longer. And it seems like they update their kernels a lot, and maybe that's an Arch thing that I don't remember, but I swear, like, every day, every other day, there's another kernel update. And I guess if it is a Cachy thing, it's because that's their target audience, is like maybe wanting the lowest, like literally the most up-to-date kernel possible to support the newest hardware or whatever. But yeah, that kind of, I've been running, 2204 for so long that like, I don't get that kind of an update. Like if I run updates, it's almost always just Flatpaks with maybe a few system packages. So now that's kind of what I've become accustomed to. And so Arch is like a shock to the system to be like, there's how many updates? It's been like 12 hours. Come on now.
I don't know what you think about openSUSE, but there's a thing called slow roll based on Tumbleweed.
So you're kind of tracking me here. Yeah, you're tracking me. So I actually started this. Yeah, I started this whole exercise with talking to, and I know you can all boo me if you want, but I sort of laid it out in a document, was playing around with it, and then I'm like, I wonder what AI would think of this. So out of curiosity, I talked. I almost never use Gemini, so I just thought, what the heck?
I like Gemini.
And Gemini actually, I have to be really honest and say, gave me a very, very clear and like very direct and perfect, almost perfect answer for me. And so, yeah, like, let me see if I can find the page. Where is it? So what I had basically come down to was, I don't enjoy the rolling release anymore. I would like to use something like Bluefin. I don't need Bazzite because I'm not a gamer, and so that's like a Tom option. But unfortunately, they really want you to give them your entire disk, and they don't want to dual boot. And I like to have more than one system on this laptop, so it's kind of put me at odds there. Plus, I noticed that the speed of it is a little slow for me, at least on the other system that I did dedicate to it. But so yeah, that kind of left me with, I didn't want to use Arch. I don't really love Fedora. I just don't. It is what it is. And I had been using Debian, but Debian is not always the easiest, most friendly thing to use. So I kind of wanted something either Ubuntu based, or if it had to be rolling, because I don't mind something up to date, I was thinking, yeah, like openSUSE Tumbleweed. So the answer it gave me back was, you've perfectly described the distro hopper's purgatory. You're looking for a very specific balance, a system that is stable enough to ignore, fresh enough to be useful, and respects your existing partition layout. That was the thing about Bluefin. Based on your frustration with Fedora-based immutables, which is Bluefin, and the all-or-nothing approach of Bluefin, there's 3 tailored paths to solve the update stability paradox. And it gave me, the first one was a hybrid, which is Vanilla OS, if you guys have looked at that. I don't love it. There's some things that it does that I don't like. So I kind of immediately dismissed that one. The second option is the steady rolling approach, openSUSE Tumbleweed, which, as you mentioned, slow roll, but there's also snapshots. There's different ways because of the way that they publish openSUSE or a Tumbleweed on like a day-to-day sort of basis, and you can go back and look and see like what days, maybe not the best day to update, things like that. And then, yeah, you mentioned slow roll. So it's rolling, but there's a certain measured quality to it that Arch just doesn't have. And the third option it gave me, which is what I was already sort of coming from, is LTS plus Flatpak, which is what I got used to with Pop OS, where it didn't matter I was on 2204, other than I was getting, the GNOME itself was getting a little long in the tooth, because I think it was running 42 maybe. So it was getting a little old. It didn't matter that much, I guess, but I was just ready to move on. Plus, again, they weren't really going to keep supporting it. So, and believe it or not, finding a GNOME-based distro on Ubuntu that isn't Ubuntu proper there aren't really many of them, if any, honestly. So, basically, that pointed me towards openSUSE. So yeah, so towards Tumbleweed. So that's really what I'm playing around with right now. Anyway, then the question came up. It was a very circuitous way of getting here, but
I like the weave.
Native
the weave is
packages.
good. The weave, because you come back in with
stage,
it.
Right?
Yeah, you're coming back with it. It's gonna be great.
So that sets a stage for, because you're using a rolling release like Tumbleweed, I've noticed that in many cases the open build system, the package you're getting on Tumbleweed is actually newer than the Flatpak version. And not that matters necessarily, but it was one of the factors I wanted to consider. And so I basically said, again, continuing this conversation of native packages versus Flatpaks, and basically came down to 6 different points of comparison between the two. The first one is the one that I had not considered, especially for openSUSE or Tumbleweed, because it's just not something I had ever really thought about. But Flatpaks are built with sort of a generic computer ideal in mind. So they're more or less made for systems that could be, 10 years old. And much like Kashi, Tumbleweed takes advantage of modern CPU instructions. So like the x86, 64, V3, AVX2 stuff for faster execution. Again, in practice, is it going to make a huge difference? Probably not for like smaller stuff. But whenever you start getting into browsers, anything where you're compiling, maybe video editing, stuff like that, where you need more of where you're using more CPU, basically, you might see a difference. And so it's not necessarily the deciding factor, but I thought it was really interesting because I had never really even thought, oh, well, a potential reason you might want to use a system package is better performance. Okay, cool. Update speed, which I talked about, Tumbleweed's got pretty much up to date as it's being released. And most Flatpaks get updated pretty quickly too, but there's no guarantee. So I would say you have a stronger chance of having the most up-to-date software if you're using a system package on something like Tumbleweed. The startup time, that used to be a bigger problem than it is now, but you still see a little delay when you're starting a Flatpak, and that's because it has to go through the initializing the sandbox, the bubble wrap stuff, and the environment and all that, and then, launch. They're pretty good with that now. Like I said, it's not something that's hugely noticeable. Disk space is the sort of perennial complaint about something like Flatpak, where native is more efficient because it's using local libraries. It doesn't have to duplicate them, that sort of thing. And Flatpak's pretty good about that as well, especially if you're using them a lot. So I've heard the complaint in the past where someone says, well, I want this one program, but in order to get it as a Flatpak, it's 2 gigs worth of dependencies. And yes, if you're using one Flatpak, that may be, onerous to have all of that extra data for essentially one package, right? But if you're using Flatpaks like I do, where I've got probably 24 Flatpaks, you start to see that go in the other direction where you're reusing everything. And honestly, at that point, you're really not using any more data than you would normally, right? So that's kind of a wash as well. And then integration, and this is where it starts to become more of an issue, especially if you're using something like an atomic release, where something like a Flatpak is going to get you a certain amount of the way, like in terms of integration, where you're getting you still have that containerization, which on one hand is good because if it's something like a browser, where it could potentially leak and have access to your system in a way that you don't want it to, then that sandbox is a good thing. But if it's something that is more hardware dependent or that you want to be running at a lower level, then that sandbox might be something that isn't useful to you or something you want. So again, another decision point of, is this something I should be running as a local package or as a Flatpak or Snap or App Image or whatever? And then the cleanup, as I mentioned earlier, where if it's something that you installed through the file manager or through the repos for your system, then it doesn't always do a great job of cleaning up, especially stuff like config files and things like that. Whereas with Flatpaks, it tends to be, more better at cleaning that kind of stuff up, like we just talked about. So anyway, I mean, I don't think there are any huge revelations there. I don't think I've also ever looked at all of those things in total whenever I'm considering, looking at the two. And so I think what's kind of neat about that is then you can have a sort of a hybrid strategy where you're saying, okay, on something like Tumbleweed, that the packages are going to be up to date on, the RPMs are going to be up to date. So you don't have to really worry about that side of it. So really you're talking native packages for CLI based tools, right? So anything like Git, Vim, compilers, stuff like that, that's going to be on the command line. Performance heavyweights, so browsers, compilers, anything where you want the speed boosts, so you might want that as a native package. System utility, so drivers, disk tools, on Tumbleweed, Yast, right, that kind of stuff. And then for Flatpaks, you might want to use it for Discord, Spotify, Slack, like all of the sort of proprietary or social apps or the dirty stuff that you don't want on your system. Sorry, go ahead.
No, yeah. I'm just saying. I totally agree. That's you're going down exactly how I'm processing this. Like you're basically yeah. And we haven't discussed this.
The last point, and then we can jump into discussing it, is the complex GUI apps where they might be bundling certain things. So something like an Audacity, OBS, GIMP, something where there might be filters, extensions, add-ons, where the software maintainer or developer decides, like Audacity, when you get it from FlatHub, gives you a bunch of extra stuff, like extra filters and that kind of stuff. Whereas if you install it from the command line or from the repo, you don't get that by default. You have to add those as a separate concern. So anyway, there you go. That's my whole sort of research I've done so far.
And I'm going to dump on that just a little bit more. So up until maybe about a month ago or so, I was under the impression that the bubble wrap that they're using in Flatpak is generally a more secure way to deploy apps. In fact, it had been the accepted general rule, right? And so I just applied this universally. Having a containerized application, that's probably a safer way to do that. And then what I do is I do install my web browsers with the Flatpak. I think except for Chrome, or anyway, except basically most of them I do with the Flatpak. And I did that initially because I wanted the sandboxing, and because I don't trust Microsoft with Edge, and I don't trust Google with Chrome, and so forth. And so I just kind of flipped what I said there. I got to double check. I think I'm running as a Flatpak. But anyway, so I started doing some research, and I got confused, which this happens. This is kind of a normal thing for me. So I'll do some reading. It doesn't make sense to me. I don't understand. So then I started using an LLM, and I asked some specific poignant questions about the security of Flatpak browsers in Flatpak versus using a native package. And this I'm going to just boil this down to the very what's going on here. So Chromium-based browsers, so Chrome, Edge, Brave, etc., they rely heavily on the Linux kernel features for isolation and sandboxing. They use a user namespace, which creates isolated user spaces, so a compromised renderer process can't easily affect the other processes or gain higher privileges. So a namespace is in general for like PID, network mount, etc., combined with a troot, and then I don't know what pivot root is exactly, but for system isolation. And then seccomp BPF filters, so system call restrictions tailored specifically for the browser's needs. Sometimes set UID helpers or other low-level mechanisms. And Firefox also uses sandboxing layers, including namespaces in native builds, though its model differs slightly from Chromium's. The features they're all battle tested, frequently updated by Google and Mozilla. They're isolation processes, and so for renderer protection. So how Flatpak sandboxing works and why it conflicts is that the Flatpak uses a bubble wrap, a user space sandbox tool to isolate apps. It relies on Linux namespaces, a strict seccomp filter, it's a global list of allowed blocked system calls, and other restrictions to limit what the app can do on your host system. So this is great for many regular apps. It prevents them from messing with your files, network, or other programs unless you explicitly allow it via permissions, which you can tweak with Flatseal, or I think Plasma has their own application permissions module. But for browsers, it creates a conflict. And this is where I had no idea about any of this until recently. So apparently Flatpak's seccomp filter is and I don't know what this means, but badness enumerating. So it blocks many potential risky syscalls by default for all Flatpak apps to reduce attack surface. This includes direct access to certain kernel features that browsers need for their own sandboxing layers. So Flatpak blocks the unprivileged username space creation, a common source of kernel exploits, which is why it's restricted. Browsers normally create these namespaces themselves for per-site isolation. The Flatpak sandbox also interferes with the browser's ability to spawn its own isolated child process with full namespace root capabilities. So as a result, I'm droning on this one. Native browsers get the full optimized kernel sandboxing they were designed for, and Flatpak browsers cannot. So they either disable or weaken their internal sandboxing, specifically noticeable, like you can go about support in Mozilla or Chrome://sandbox pages, and actually it'll give you the that information. So the user namespace will show as disabled, or work around like zippack for Chromium-based or patches. So these nest Flatpak sandboxing around the modified browser sandbox, but it's less effective and less tested and not as robust as the native version. So the browser side isolation and renderer protections end up being weaker. And that actual discussion is on fedoraproject.org. So to kind of put a bow on this, Flatpak adds its own outer sandbox, which is decent for containing the whole browser, but it breaks or downgrades the inner, more important sandboxing that protects individual websites from each other. So a compromised in one tab becomes more dangerous because the browser's own defenses are hobbled, and Flatpak's protections don't fully compensate for what gets lost. So that to me was I guess it was a very long explanation, something I prepared. But that for me was something that I thought was extremely interesting because that goes against a lot of what I understood as Flatpak of the future, because it's a bubble wrap, which this whole thing kind of changes my mind about a lot of the immutable desktops, because then if they are Flatpaks, then you're actually having a less secure system. So communication between tabs are more easily compromised, which is an issue, if you're running, some things. Anyway, so I don't know what you think of that. If you think that's a bunch of really high level security stuff that nobody cares about, or if that's something to consider. Even after reading this, I'm still using the Chromium. I think Chrome. I have to double check. I can do it right now. I couldn't access my bank's application without Chromium, which really irritated me. Yeah, it's a Flatpak. So does this kind of like change maybe your mind on sandboxing and what that really means? So basically you have more of a sandbox with the native package with browsers than you do with Flatpak.
That's a very specific use case. So
Yeah,
I don't disagree with you. And I mean, in a way, I would almost think that if that were true and still true and not based on information that potentially could be out of date, that's the only thing I thought of when you were explaining that, is like, how up to date is that info? It seems like something that people who are, building Flatpak would be, painfully aware of, and probably be wondering if there was a way to, to support that. But in let's just say, take it on faith that what you said is true. First off, that's fascinating because it's not something I was aware of. Two, it doesn't concern me because it still means that of the, let's say, 30 Flatpaks I have installed, the 2 that might be a web browser could be suffering a bit of a reduction, let's say, in security, whereas the 28 others are not, or actually, in a better state because of that bubble wrap process and the separation. So I still think that the containerization makes sense and is actually sort of better, I would argue, for like most people.
well, I think you're right.
But I would say that if that information is still correct and the browsers require or work better as a native package. I mean, first of all, if that's true, then that means that Canonical, by adopting snaps for Firefox, knowingly or ignorantly, take your pick, chose to make Firefox less secure by making it a snap.
So let me, before we like throw snaps in there, I did not research snaps, and I think that's the way snaps does it is different than Flatpak and how they access internal features. So, but don't quote me on that. I don't have the information.
No, I think you're right.
That.
I think you're right.
And so I
think you're right.
I think the way Canonical does it is quite different. So I don't want to muddy up the snaps in there, but it was just specifically Flatpak and browsers.
The fact that the browser developers do, and this is the, these verified Flatpaks, they're the ones publishing them. You would think that either it's not as big a deal, potentially, than what that makes it sound like, or they're doing it and just allowing it as a convenience. I don't know. So it's a great question. I honestly never really understood that. So that's pretty cool.
And again, this is something like I went down a rabbit hole, when I should have been doing something like, I don't know, sleeping. That's kind of where this all came from. And so like I remember I stayed up way too late with this whole nonsense. And so here's where the things are weird. I'm gonna go on, and if I go to, so I have Chromium and Chrome and Flatpak. Firefox is native, so I don't care about that one. But I also Edge. I also have that in a Flatpak as well. And the only reason is because I just happen to find the native package that Microsoft builds is less reliable than the Flatpak. but I mean, it's Microsoft, so there we go. But if I go to Chrome and I check the sandbox status under Chrome //sandbox, so it says a layer 1 sandbox SUID, and it's a yellow status in Chrome. So it gives me a caution there. It's not red, but it's a caution. In Chromium, it says layer 1 sandbox is flat. It just says Flatpak, and it gives me a green there. So that would lead me into believing, Eric, you might be correct that maybe some information might be a little bit out of date. There might have been new developments since about 3 weeks, a month ago, whatever, when I started down this rabbit hole that would say otherwise. But I do tend to think that a Flatpak is a better way to containerize your applications. And also, I wanted to throw one more little bit out there. And this is according to, again, I mean, basically, I'm getting different people's opinions on this. So this is not like, I'm not a security researcher. I'm not the expert here. This is just stuff I've read. So take it for what it's worth. This could all be a bunch of, it could be wrong.
It is.
Everything I'm saying could be wrong.
It is.
Right.
Spoiler, it is, but continue.
Yeah. So it also states that the AppArmor and SE Linux, if properly tuned, which I think that's the caveat there, has better protection than Flatpak does. I don't know if I believe that, but that is a claim that is made, that should it be properly tuned, that you're not going to have that kind of bleed over, because that is your more rigid system isolation within your system. Again, that's what I read. Don't know if that's how true it is, but
so here's your update if you're ready for it.
Fire away.
So it's a common concern among privacy enthusiasts. Does double sandboxing actually make a browser less secure? The short answer is no. Running a browser as a Flatpak is generally not less secure than a native package, but it does introduce a layer of complexity that requires a bit of nuance to understand. Here's the breakdown of how these security layers interact. Number one, the sandbox inside a sandbox myth. Modern browsers, Chromium-based and Firefox, use their own internal sandboxing mechanisms. For example, Chrome uses namespaces and seccomp filters to isolate tabs. When you run a Flatpak, you are wrapping the browser's internal sandbox inside the bubble wrap sandbox. The conflict historically had been some browsers struggling to nest these sandboxes. If the outer sandbox Flatpak was too restrictive, the inner sandbox the browsers couldn't initialize, potentially forcing the browser to run with its internal protections disabled. The reality is that modern Flatpak versions of Firefox and Brave are configured, and Chromium are configured to allow the browser to create the necessary namespaces. They don't cancel each other out, they stack. So the attack surface, native versus Flatpak, and it goes through like a whole thing. The potential weak points in Flatpaks are X11 versus Wayland. If you run a Flatpak browser on an old X11 session, the sandbox is effectively bypassed because X11 allows any application to spy on another, which is, again, one of the major reasons that everyone wants to move to Wayland. This isn't Flatpak's fault, but a protocol limitation. Permissions override. Many users use tools like FlatSeal to give browsers access to their entire home folder or other system files for easy file uploads. Doing this negates a significant portion of the Flatpak security advantage. The portal latency. Flatpaks use portals to talk to the rest of the system, like opening a file picker. If a portal has a bug, it could theoretically be exploited, thereby, although this is a very rare occurrence compared to standard browser exploits. So the verdict is that it's actually more secure for the average user. In a native package, a browser escape exploit gives the attacker the keys to your entire user directory. In a Flatpak, even if the attacker escapes the browser's internal sandbox, and this is where they stack, they're still trapped inside the Flatpak container, as long as the user hasn't overridden it, and unable to see the personal documents or system files outside of the bubble wrap container. So there you go. that's how that works.
So I guess what we learned from this is we don't know anything more now than before.
Well, no, that told me that what you had said before was that is not. So basically, what has happened is for the maintainers that are using Flatpak, or the people who are the developers who are using Flatpak as publishing on Flatpak or FlatHub. I'll get this right eventually. They have adjusted the way that the sandboxing works in order to allow it to still function properly inside of Bubble Wrap and Flatpak. So the takeaway is that what you were reading was probably true before, but as I assumed that, I knew that there was no way that would be a long-standing issue. People were way too, especially in the Linux realm, people are way too aware of that kind of a thing. So to me, that basically says you're fine running, especially ones that are verified from Chromium, Firefox, that kind of thing. And you're probably inheriting it as well on WaterFox or, Vivaldi or, any of the other Chromium and Firefox based browsers. So there you go.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, both browsers, like Chromium and Chrome, both say I'm adequately sandboxed, but I do have a yellow flag on Chrome for the SUID layer 1 sandbox. So I don't know. Maybe that one doesn't have the adjustments that you spoke of, because it's
and then
Google.
I would say how you should test it by installing it locally or with a native package and see if that flag changes.
Right, I should, but I don't want to do that right now.
No, I'm just saying that would be the way. That would be what I would try next, is to see if by in fact getting out of a Flatpak environment, does that enable better security, at least in that instance.
Mm-hmm. So for me personally, I'm still going to lean toward Flatpak after everything, because what we discussed earlier is like third-party applications like Discord, whatever. I kind of don't trust them, and I think that I want that bubble wrap. You know what I mean? And
yeah. Well, and there was also a pro tip in here which I forgot I didn't include, but it's saying if you're using Flatpak browsers, use FlatSeal to verify that the file system permissions are restricted to XDG download only, rather than all system files. So that XDG download is one of the portals that would allow then,
right,
a secure means of accessing those files instead of just wide open access.
So the one part that, even after everything you've read and so forth, and I don't think it's as big of a deal, is the statement about access to the kernel's the kernel's piece of it, where it actually helps with the isolation, the tools, down there. Whatever I said earlier.
What did you call that?
Yeah, I'm looking.
If you can,
okay,
because you called it bad something or.
So the kernel, Linux kernel feature that so Chromium based browsers rely heavily on the Linux kernel feature for user namespaces that it create isolated user spaces, so compromised renderer process can't affect the other processes and gain a higher privilege. So it's relying on the kernel's ability to do that. And then namespaces in general for PID network mount. So combine that with Troot and pivot root for file system isolation, and seccomp BPF filters for system call restrictions. So it's using. So no, but Firefox doesn't use the same kernel features. It does something different for that. So I think maybe Firefox might be. Okay, I didn't research this, but I think Firefox might be less affected by and for process isolation. It does it slightly differently. And so Flatpak's seccomp filter is badness enumerating. Is what it's called. That's what it uses for all Flatpak apps to reduce attack surface. But yeah, I think the
So
portals
there's
though.
so the answer is that this is a nuance of that. Yeah. So this is basically the native kernel level user namespace functionality is often sacrificed or replaced when running a browser in Flatpak. And I think replaced is the important part, because what it does is there's something called Flatpak spawn and Zypak or ZYPAK.
Yep.
And that's what it's using to stack and allow that same functionality to happen while running as a Flatpak.
Right, and that's
it's via dbus. So it's using a similar mechanism, just a different approach. So
yeah. So and I guess it does. What I read also does say that, but it says it breaks or downgrades the inner, more important sandboxing, because it doesn't have that kernel access. Again, I don't know how.
And you're right. I have the same exact answer here, where it's saying it's often uses Flatpak standard seccomp filters rather than the extremely tight custom filters that Chrome or Firefox teams have spent years perfecting specifically for web content versus general application use. So, yeah, I mean, I think, though, you might be kind of picking nits at that point. And again, we go back to the security, like the trade-off between what are people going to actually do versus what is the best practice. So, yeah. And again, the Flatpak guard would be, as long as they're using XDG downloads, if a process were to escape its jail, it can theoretically only get to, unless it then found a way to then subvert Flatpak as well, it could only get to the Flatpak jail, which is then basically the end of the line. So it's, to me, they're sort of two of the same, but I agree with you, if you were to take it to the granular percentage level, that the jails and the processes that the teams at Mozilla and Google have spent years perfecting are probably 5-10% better. And this is all just, spitballing, but, so I would guess that you probably could make an argument for, and honestly, let's say maybe that's just best practice. And you say, okay, it's better for me, not only because it's maybe more secure, but it's more performant to run a browser as a system package than it would be as a Flatpak. So I'll save Flatpak for Discord and for, all those other junky apps that I don't necessarily Telegram, that kind of stuff. And a browser that maybe I don't have a choice but to trust, because we use browsers for everything. All of our personal information, our credit cards, everything is going through that system, and either you trust it or you don't, right? I mean, you could sandbox it all you want, but you're still going to type a credit card number in there or a social security number or something like that. You know what I mean? So
yeah, and also I think my decision-making process on that also is I trust the combing of the open source browser Firefox, so running that as a system package for me seems like the better way to go from my perspective. And for a closed source or closed-ish browser like Edge or Chrome, I don't want those as native packages, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, and I think that's a fair. Plus, you're not using them as often, right? I mean, you're probably not doing your banking or your primary. Well, you said in your case you didn't have a choice, or that might have been.
Yeah, that's what it was. And
someone
then
else.
For all work things I do with Edge because it's tied to my Microsoft tenant and everything else.
Gotcha. Well, if you're using Edge, I mean, you've kind of already let the barbarians through the gates at that point. So
well, that's why it's in a Flatpak, because I'm hoping the bubble wrap will keep them, somewhat contained.
That's right. Barbarians, this is as far as you get right here. That's it.
Right here. Don't pop the bubble wrap.
The line is right here. That's right. You run into a very soft wall.
Says, You shall not pass.
So Nate, are there other people in this stream, or is it just you and I at this point?
I think
Like,
put them all to sleep.
have we taken it too far?
I think we might have.
I'm still here. Still here, still trying to understand what you're talking about.
No.
I'm just wondering if you found any cat litter yet.
In the basement.
You're playing in the sandbox.
Yeah. Oh, it's if you get any prizes in the sandbox. That's really the problem. You find any unwelcome prizes, that are squishy.
Okay.
So.
Okay.
Of any variety. All right. Well, that was fun. I don't know if anybody any other thoughts on that. What you're going to do? Is that Colin is going to change whether or not you use a Flatpak or a native package? Does it even like show up on the radar at all?
I always just use Firefox mostly, and that's always pretty much your standard app. Not a Flatpak. I don't think I've ever used a Flatpak for a browser, to be honest, because I wasn't sure what you're talking about. Sounds like. Yeah, I've looked at FlatSeal before and adjusted some of those things for other applications because they weren't doing what I wanted them to do. But it sounds to me that it sounds reasonable to be able to use it. But I don't know. I just like to use native packages for browsers, to be honest, because of banking reasons as well. So I don't know how good Flatpaks are when it comes to banking and all that, because I do banking online.
Yeah,
I don't know. I really don't know. I just used.
I don't actually really know how good any of the information is because there's so much conflict in a lot of it that I think how things kind of shake out over time. That's probably the only time is the real tell on all of that. And if we see any CVEs or other exploits, because there's no, even with what I read, there was no clear exploits on any of Flatpak's bubble wrapping either. Which is why, in my mind, it makes more sense to run the Flatpak because I know that when I'm running Microsoft nonsense, because I have to for work, I keep that in its own little Flatpak jail, and then if I do run Chrome, I keep that in its own Flatpak jail, and keep them, and keep the two separate. And there's nothing that says definitively that the what it uses for isolating the user namespaces is necessarily less secure with Flatpak. It appears Chrome says it's degraded, but whatever, it doesn't necessarily say it's not tested. It doesn't have the same sort of testing and evaluation, as many eyes on it. Essentially, that I think is the bigger issue. So that's why I said time will tell.
What's the veracity of your claim, sir? I want to see some studies.
Exactly. That's it. There aren't. That's the problem. That's
the beauty of something like Flatpak to me is, again, like I read earlier, where there's a whole host of reasons you might want to use it. Security is just a byproduct that people, I don't even think they necessarily think about or care about. If you're on Linux, all it does is make it so that there's a universal way to get an up-to-date version of a piece of software that might otherwise be a pain to get. And it's consistent across all your installs and your distros. And so I think that's probably the single greatest reason that people care about or even want to use Flatpak is because it's just easy, right? And all the other stuff that might come about is because of using it is just a byproduct of that. And, I'm sure there's plenty of people that, like you, are using it for a security purpose, but I think the vast majority of people are just using it, and myself included, because it's just convenient. I like Flatpak because I've been using it for so long, and because I trust it, and because it just works. So,
and to go back to what all started this at 37 minutes into the so an hour ago almost, was native versus Flatpak. The reason I do the Flatpak is because when Tumbleweed is computing the snapshots that it's going to roll into, I want all these extra superfluous things not to be part of that computation and keep core system packages all it worries about, essentially. And then that makes rolling a little bit easier and less. It takes a little less time. That's the long and the short of it is that. So
Yeah.
yeah,
it's less packages to update, at least through Zipper or however you're doing it.
Right. Yeah. I mean, not that it can't do it. It just, I just feel like, hey, I'm making you do an awful lot here. Maybe I'll take the Discord load off of you, and maybe I'll take a few other things. Take the Edge off of you and the Chrome. So, but we actually it's a news flight night, and haven't even got to the news yet. So, well, I guess we'll start with this. So, I know that. Thank you, Eric, for all that. And I thought, I really, it's gonna be interesting. I think it's gonna be kind of I don't know how, all the unsubscribes will happen if we make this an ongoing kind of discussion. But I find it really fascinating, the whole thing. So,
yeah.
Anyway.
Well, heaven forbid we learn something.
Right. Exactly. Or make our heads all cloudy. But anyway, so one of the first article, and it's the Ubuntu 26.04 LTS is released. So that has GNOME 50, which is that what you're running right now, GNOME 50 on Tumbleweed?
Yes.
Okay. So it has been released.
Well, actually, I'm GNOME 50 on Arch because of cache. I haven't installed. I have Tumbleweed on my other machine. So yes, I do have it on the Latitude. Yeah, this guy.
Okay.
The tablet. So
it also has Linux 7.0, which I don't have that on Tumbleweed yet. And the so I guess there's what's new. I'm gonna list a couple of things here. I don't know if you want to. I don't want to read all these articles, but I do want to at least say the Ubuntu 26.07 LTS. So what is new on that is so if you plan upgrade, it's a Resolute Raccoon, and you're going to inherit 2 years worth of improvements. So it's as an LTS jump, you don't simply benefit from what's new, but everything else that is in the 3 interim release prior. So that would include 24.10, 25.04, and 25.10. So a mammoth set of changes across the full stack running right from the lower level foundations up to the apps in a desktop environment and that run on top. Plus, there have been removals and replacements too. Ubuntu 26.04 no longer includes X11 Xorg desktop session and drops a couple of apps and utilities you may have come to rely on. So the system requirements have been raised, now higher than those of Windows 11, though they don't panic that those are not hard limits, and the release does not run any system. And this release does run on systems with less than 6 gigabytes of RAM. I know that we talked about that a couple weeks ago, maybe last week. I don't remember when we talked about it, but I thought that was interesting that the system requirements for Ubuntu is higher than Windows 11, which okay, I guess it depends what you're doing. So the 26 changes. I'm just gonna read the headlines, and if somebody stop me if you want to dig deeper into that. Okay, so go ahead and don't need to raise your hand, just interject immediately. All right. So no more X11 Xorg desktop session. No longer included. Does that make anybody lose their biscuits or anything like that?
I'm sure somebody doesn't like it, but
So the impact
I'm sure
of this
somebody doesn't like it, but I like it. I like it.
Yeah, I like Wayland. So it won't be felt. So this impact, the impact of this.
I have an opinion on that, Nate.
Of course, you have an opinion, and feel free to interject and tell me what your opinion is.
Honestly, Xorg, X11, whatever you call it, has been around for over 20 years, I want to say, maybe more. And honestly, the more I think about it, it's probably time to just let the thing go. Let Wayland take over and Ex Libre and all these things, and just move the heck on. Because, I mean, it's on time frame at this point, if anything. And it's not best to let sometimes the old rot just has to go. And
Are
while
you
yes,
insinuating-
there are things that aren't 100% in Wayland yet. What?
What would you say, Hip
What?
Dad? I think you're gonna make an ageism
it-
joke
it-
here.
Yeah, is he insinuating that oldness needs to just walk off and die? Okay.
Eventually, I mean, yes.
I'm not
think.
talking about you.
I love you, Ben.
I'm not talking about you, Hip.
I know. I'm just giving you a hard time, man.
Hey,
He's crossing his
I'm not
fingers right now,
saying
just so you know.
old people should die. I'm talking about. Oh God.
So now
If I don't give you a hard time, I don't like
see
you.
Shaston has joined.
Yeah, talking crap about me, huh?
Not crap. We're only saying nice things. Nice things. Unicorns and
ever
puppy
nice
dogs.
things.
Unicorns and puppy dogs.
That's right.
I don't know about all that. Oh,
So are you trying to force choke me right
I
now?
was talking about Xorg. I wasn't talking about you.
I thought we were going to be talking about the news or something.
It is news. So the
Oh, come on, man.
so Wayland has been the default for NVIDIA users in 2024. So the testing has long been worked out for the LTS. Plus, most software that requires X11 will happily run on Wayland on top of X Wayland, and I can attest to that. It seems to. I don't have any problems with that, so we're good to go there. So it says, so Ubuntu not supporting X11 does not directly affect other flavors and desktops, some of which, like Ubuntu, continue to use it. And X server packages are still available in Ubuntu repositories for you to install. You just can't run the GNOME desktop on top of it anymore. And I think that GNOME has always been kind of forward-leaning in a lot of these technologies anyway, which is good for that.
It was GNOME.
I'm still sort of
GNOME is a town in
I'm still sort of someone who loves and prefers Xorg, but it's not 100% a deal killer for me if I can't run it by default. Personally.
Right, but you're not stopped from using it. You just can't use Xorg, X11 with GNOME. That's it. So that's it. Yeah. So you can use other desktops. Yeah. So if you use Ubuntu or XFCE, it's still going to work. All right. So Drake Cut is now the boot init, and so it generates the initial RAM file system. The improved TPM backed disk encryption. Rust-based sudo and core utilities. These are the changes. Various theme and design changes. Actually, I like the design changes they made. That's my opinion. I think it looks pretty. I do like the it's a nice theme. So it looks similar to the 2404 at first glance, but a closer inspection you'll notice that quite a bit has changed. So they have this article on the OMG Ubuntu actually shows some of the differences on the theming changes. I like it. It's just subtle, mostly subtle. So new boot animation riffs on the raccoon mascot artwork shown in the new default. And so there's 7 new default applications. Papers replaces Events. I don't use any of these. The default document viewer is based on the Events code, but majority rebuilt on Rust and GTK4 libid Weta. Lupe supplants Eye of Gnome as the default image viewer. I don't know how this is pronounced, but PTYXIS, the default terminal. Pixis? How do you say it? Pixis.
Texas.
Yeah. Yep. Resources assumes the role of system monitor. What's that? Go ahead.
I was just going to say it's the default terminal for like a lot of the Universal Blue distros.
Okay.
Like Aurora DX, Bluefin. What's the other one? Bazzite.
Resources assumes the role of system monitor. Showtime replaces Totem as the default video player. I didn't know Totem was still a thing.
I didn't either.
Yeah.
They've done this thing where they will rename something, like the file space tool they call GNOME file space, and it's actually still Baobab. And same thing with Nautilus, like files, GNOME files, it's still Nautilus. You know what I mean? It's kind of weird how they do that, but yeah, they do that a lot.
And when you install it, it's Nemo.
Yep.
Well, we all have different names based on our circles, I guess. So Security Center is new to the LTS, having debuted in Ubuntu 24.10. It's a one-stop hub for security-related settings. Very cool. SysProof is a tool for developers. It's used to capture performance data on software and system processes, useful for debugging. Next thing is the file manager feature FEST. Now this is the default file manager. And then we have notification groups deal with the deluge, and that's pretty cool. I like that idea. I think Plasma kind of does it, but sometimes you still get a deluge at times. So there's that. App Center lets you manage deb software. That's cool. There's a software updater indicator. The Ubuntu, there's some dock differences. You can see the differences there. It's no longer transparent, switching to an opaque background to better match the color of the main desktop panel. And desktop icons, NG improvements. So desktop icons extension, ding. I like that. Ubuntu pre-installs by default has received a modest clutch of updates since the outing of 2404. And apt got a glow up, so it looks. So the apt command line tool has improved the output formatting with colors, columns, and padding. The apt removal is now listed last, so you can see them in red. That's very cool. So Do Not Disturb has been moved. So the toggle is moved to the Quick Settings menu, where it joins the system toggles. HDR, VRR, and smarter scaling. That's cool. Includes out-of-box support for advanced display features that were either absent or required for you to modify manually to enable in 2404. And HDR support is available for monitors that support it. And does anybody have any HDR monitors? I do not, but I think that's pretty cool. And also variable refresh rate.
Nope.
It's technically been offered for a while on compatible hardware, though it's been hidden in the G settings. So for remote desktop buffs, it's improved, which added remote login support. Now remote sessions persist between service restarts, so you can connect to the headless system and add a virtual monitor, or even use touch input forwarding. That's very cool, and I would like to see that more on Plasma. I think they're working on that with SDDM. Software and update apps drops. So no longer included a software and update tool on new installs because the distro developers feel a few of its features pose more of a risk to system integrity than it helped. So as a result, additional drivers shortcuts is gone too. There's no easy way to check or set proprietary driver settings at 2604 at launch. Ubuntu Pro enablement is integrated into the App Center, so that may be a rub for some. So startup applications are also removed. Anyone I can't read that. Apparently I'm too much country music today. So Noma's added auto start toggles to a logical location, so settings applications, so that they've moved that. They've also split the firmware. There's some more accessibility tools, the power charging limits, which that's a neat feature. I use that on my laptop, so I don't let it charge to 85%. And then this way it doesn't, it abuses the battery a little less. And then control Ubuntu telemetry collection. So they have some telemetry controls on there, which I think you should, if you're going to use a free operating system, you should give them some data. AMD and NVIDIA AI stacks. I can read about that. So Linux 7.0 and Mesa 2610. So that I think is also pretty cool. Anyway, do any of these changes excite anybody, or is this kind of a did you see like a part of the regular grind?
Another day at the office.
Thing, yeah, and on the HDR thing, I've enabled it, disabled it, and never really noticed a difference.
Okay. So there's a bunch of articles here. The Ubuntu's got some audits and Rust rewrites of core utilities, flag and security notes. I'll put these in the show notes. Then 2610 release date is confirmed for October 2026. I think that's pretty exciting. And then I think Ubuntu, Kubuntu, Ubuntu, Ubuntu Budgie, and Ubuntu Cinnamon have LTS. Chilson also does, but Ubuntu Mate does not have. There's no release information on that at this point. Ubuntu Studio's got a release, Ubuntu Unity, and Xubuntu as well. So I thought maybe it might be kind of cool for the next distro exploration. Maybe check out the I think the 2604, unless somebody has any heartburn with that.
No arguments against there, Nate. I was actually going to be the one to recommend that.
Were you?
So that we can trash it or what?
Yes.
No, we don't trash things.
I'm already running it.
Nice.
Trash.
I should
Nice.
finally be done with my review for Ubuntu by then, so I might be able to add some to that.
Nice. I'm actually going to probably download it here tonight and take a look at it myself.
I've been running it for about a week now on my backup. Just plays games, doing everything I need it to do. I don't have a lot of complaints about it, honestly, other than the fact it's the version of GNOME that it is.
The version of GNOME is, yeah.
But
So the
I don't hate it.
distro exploration is next week, so we can go ahead and maybe that might be a good. Would that fit in your timeline there, Dale?
For Ubuntu?
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I should be able to add to it.
Awesome. Now, so there's a lot of options to download. Those that I listed. So there's so I guess we're gonna make it just kind of a choose your own adventure on that one.
Yeah. I'm probably going the Xubuntu personally, just because, you know, me, Mr. XFC.
Yeah, it makes sense.
I actually just got through doing a Kubuntu review like a week ago, so I'll be able to probably do a little bit of both of those.
Yeah.
I kind of want to do the GNOME one just because, I know I'm going to go with KDE. I think maybe I'll do both, KDE and GNOME. Anyway. So anyway, that's pretty exciting. I always like to see another Ubuntu release. I know they get a lot of Canonical gets a lot of heat, but I think it's not always well deserved. But to kind of dovetail into this is a somewhat some okay. This is a multiple thing. The Framework Laptop 13 Pro. I don't know if you saw the release this week about the Framework laptops. I'm personally excited about it. I use them. They're kind of my, I'm not gonna say exclusive, but near exclusive supplier of laptops at work. And so, but they released the Framework Laptop 13 Pro. Not sure if you've seen it at all, but any of the releases, the Pro is with the Core Ultra 3 chipset or whatever main boards. They are claiming to get close to 24 hours, like just over 23 hours of battery life doing, and they actually have they have criteria set so you can reproduce the test yourself. So probably real world, maybe closer to 15 to 18 hours of battery life, but it has more battery life. The new Pro, it's slightly different dimensions of the thickness and the way the lower portion of the case is, but significantly more battery life out of that. And I think the Intel has made massive improvements when it comes to power consumption. So pretty much getting close to being parity with the M series silicon, which I think is very cool. But anyway, all that said, the point of that is the Framework Laptop 13 Pro has Ubuntu certification. So you can buy a Framework laptop with Ubuntu on it. That'll be an option now, which I think is also fantastic. Yeah. So instead of bring your own, so one of the pre-built will have that. Anyway.
Which one we're talking about? The 13 Pro, did you say?
Yeah, the Framework Laptop 13 Pro should have an Ubuntu.
Yeah, okay, yeah.
Yeah, I've been wanting to check out because it's kind of like your build your own laptop kind of thing.
It is.
I've been wanting to check that out. I'm probably gonna go to work here pretty soon and thinking I might actually buy one.
That's cool, Shaston.
So
Yeah, I've been eyeing one of those myself. The cost is like, holy cow.
well, it depends on how you spec them out. So when I buy them for work for users, it's about $1,400 per machine, and it's since if I were to buy like an X1 Carbon or some other like similarly spec'd Lenovo, Dell, or HP business grade machine, or even System 76, it's about the same price. The big difference being, for a business grade machine, I'm not going to go to Wally World or Best Buy and get a $300 laptop and issue it to somebody. There's no way I'm going to do that. That's just not going to happen. Because they won't hold up. And then from Ars Technica, there's an upgrade for the laptop 16, which they say the upgrades make it look like an unfinished prototype. But if anybody here has played around with external GPUs running on Thunderbolt, and thought, man, I would like to have OcuLink connection capabilities, they have basically they have a module so you can do OcuLink right out of the back of it. I think that's really cool, especially for people who are, who like doing these things with the machines. I have a external GPU for my Framework Laptop 13, and it kind of looks like a science experiment because it's just the GPU is exposed and right next to the power supply. I kind of like it.
Looks like a rig.
It's fun.
Yeah,
it looks. Yeah.
What is what card do you have? Just out of curiosity.
It's a
AMD something.
It's an AMD something. I don't want to say what it is because I don't see the name on it and I don't remember.
Okay.
But it's an older card. This is actually the card. If you remember in 2019 when I built my first server.
Yep.
Eric, it's out of there.
Yep. Okay.
So it's old.
Yeah, old cards still have a purpose. Yeah. They're not great for gaming, but
it's good for me. I mean, I think it's good enough for the gaming
it's not
do.
It's not good for AAA stuff. Yeah, I had a 970 for up until like a year ago that I still used, and it was fine. There's no ray tracing, but whoop-de-doo.
Yeah. Depends on how you crank it.
I mean, the AMD APUs are pretty good as well. I mean, I use an APU right now on this thing, and it pretty much runs everything I do, minus the AAA titles. That it ain't gonna do that. But I don't really give a crap about AAA titles anyway.
You can play the AAA titles. You just can't max out the graphics. That's the only thing. You turn off some of the pretty things, and you can still play the games. It's just not as pretty.
Yeah.
And also depends on how many pixels you're pushing too.
Yep, 1080p. Yeah, it's even on low settings, it's pretty taxing to it.
Oh yeah.
So what's also neat is Framework. If you watch the release, they just had it this past Tuesday. It was Tuesday. What's also neat is they're now offering a one-piece touchpad setup like where your wrist rests, and it's nice to see they don't take themselves too seriously because the CEO the founder, I should say, he said Framework apparently doesn't realize that some people have hair on their arms, so it gets caught on the between the different pieces there in the front, and so I thought it was really fun. So anyway, they offer like a one-piece touchpad and a one-piece keyboard as well. So if you don't want anything on the side, you can just have the one piece. If you don't want a number pad or whatever, they offer that, which I think is nice if they offer that kind of modularity as well.
It's the beauty of that system, and why I want one too eventually is like you can just something annoys you about it, and you're like, I don't like that. I'm going to change it.
Right, exactly, and that I think is really neat. They did release a while ago the CAD for it, so people have been printing their own and putting the touchpad in it, which also very cool that you can just do that. That's wild to me that you can just 3D print the wrist rest that you want, and it works. And then they also cover how the framework's CEO on the RAM crisis, and create the MacBook Pro for Linux users. Essentially, is what kind of the framework laptop 13 Pro is. So if you look at some pictures of it, it looks kind of neat. I think specifically this. If you look at this article here, I'll put it in the YouTube, and here in the live chat, which I just lost. Oh, here it is. Oh, Eric's got some stuff there. So this article here kind of shows them side like back to back, and I mean it looks like the same machine, but it's got a haptic feedback touchpad. So they're definitely trying to be more MacBook Pro. I mean they did. I mean basically the founder did come from Apple originally.
You mean they want to be better than MacBook Pro?
Well, I think that's actually a very low bar, honestly.
Yeah.
I'll say.
But that's my opinion. See, that's what I think. And then what I think is really neat is there's an upgrade path. So if I want to turn mine into a Franken Pro, I can do that. I mean, it's totally available. I don't know what else to call it. Kind of part Pro, part original. So that I just think it's really neat that they do that.
Hey, Nate.
Yeah.
I want to do a brief update on StormOS before we end tonight, if you don't mind.
Brief one. Well, I was going to have Mike do the community free pour at the end today.
Oh, okay, that's fine. I can save it. I can save it for the after show. That don't matter. Yep. I'll just deal about it afterwards.
Yeah. So anyway, cool news on framework. Cool news on Ubuntu. I think this week, and then we'll just keep going. Then the other article I wanted to cover too. I mean, any other comments on that? I think I'm maybe more of a framework fanboy than maybe anybody else here. I really love framework. But anyway, so what's that?
I was just gonna say I saw somebody streaming with one not too long ago, and it looks nice.
I'm streaming with one right now. You just can't see it.
Oh, I see. Well, there's two people, I guess. I saw Bash Bunny streaming with one.
Okay. Yeah, so it's a pretty. I mean, it's not the cheapest machine out there, obviously, but I think over time, the repairability factor of it and the fact that you can upgrade it over time, to me that's what's important. I like having a machine that I can. That's just. I'm going on 3 years now of using this machine, and I've done one mainboard upgrade in it, and I think it's absolutely fantastic. I really do. Very happy with it, extremely. In fact, right now, if I check the Core Ultra 1 series, not that power efficient on battery, but yeah, I'm hardly using any doing the stream. I'm not really using hardly any of its processing power. So I think I'm at 12% right now running this whole thing, which I think is pretty impressive. All right, so one more article here. Firefox 150. It's such a weirdly large number. So it has some new features, UI tweaks, and performance improvements from OMG Ubuntu. It brings Linux Emoji Picker, a PDF page ordering plus more. So I guess maybe you can edit pages. I don't know. So it enhanced split view features, multi-tab sharing, and a clutch of welcome PDF editor improvements. Split view debuted in Firefox 149 last month, letting you easily view two web pages side by side in a single tab. No more juggling windows. Although tiling is kind of neat, kind of nice. And you can right-click on a link in a web page and choose Open, Tab, and Split View to do precisely that. So Firefox's Split View feature now includes an option to reverse tabs in the context menu, 3 dots in the button, focus split, and then when creating a new split view, without a link, you're able to search through the rest of your open tabs in place and pick one to split. It has PDF translations and conversions. So you can now reorder pages in a PDF file, as well as copy paste new pages, delete pages, and export selected pages when using Firefox built-in PDF editor. That's pretty rad right there. Like, that's super rad.
Yeah, I actually started using Firefox again just yesterday, so I really like it. Though they have a lot of added features that I kind of like. I don't know if I have like any like really good key bindings yet that like kind of keep my hands on my keyboard, but Brave was really good for that. But I don't know. I'll have to mess around with it. I've been messing around with it about a day now. I like it.
I've continually used it. I think we had a conversation a long time ago with Eric. I don't know about, it was just about Firefox and how much better it was, like in about 2019, like before the world fell apart. About how much more performant it was. There was that update they kind of changed it, and it was a big deal because it broke a lot of extensions. Anyway, nobody cares about that anymore. It's been pretty
Quantum.
great. Quantum, that's right. You're such a smart man.
Yeah, I remember that. God, that was a long time ago. It just seems
they
like
needed to do it
yesterday.
though. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I don't disagree.
It was painful, but they had to do it because they were so far behind Chrome at that point. It was laughable.
Yeah. So
but
Firefox, Firefox 150 rolls out network access restrictions to all users, meaning websites must now request your permission before they can connect to devices on your local network or apps connected to your devices. So if you use an enhanced network protection strict mode, then the security feature was already enforced for you. With this update, you can now enforce everyone irrespective of ETP mode. And so on Linux, the native GTK emoji picker can now be triggered within Firefox. Just focus entry into a text input entry space on a web page or UI element and press Control plus period on the keyboard. It'll pop up a little window so you can put an emoji. That's pretty cool right there.
Mm-hmm.
So other changes, the web apps are now available. Firefox web apps are now available for users who install the browser from the Microsoft Store. No sign of the web app feature coming to Linux currently, but it's available for Windows 10 and 11. Isn't that exciting?
I suppose.
Piqued my interest.
Mm-hmm. So you can download Firefox 150 today. What am I running right now? I don't know. Did it come through on the
I'll tell you what,
149?
I also wanted to mention that the mobile version is very nice. They just did a pretty serious UI update on the Android version, and it's decent.
And the thing I really like about Firefox, and I can do this with Chrome if you're signed into the Google Sphere, but you can send web pages to different devices that are logged into the sync with Firefox. That to me is a pretty great feature. And what I think is neat is, like, let's say I'm on my phone, whatever, and I see something, a web page, I can just send it to my computer, and when I walk over to my computer, it's like, oh, it's there. Convergence, right? That was the big buzzword about 8 years ago. So that's really a nice feature as well.
Yep.
Well, I guess I am using 150. I just reinstalled Blade Linux on my main machine and they're pretty bleeding edge, so I am using version 150.
I haven't updated in a little while, so it's been a week or so.
In a week?
Yeah, I've been running updates. I see that they're there. I just haven't done it. So, all right. Well, we had a bunch of other articles here. I will put those in the show notes that we didn't get to include NIST to stop rating non-priority flaws due to volume increase. And then Debian elects new DPL. So I'll put some of these things in the show notes. Oh, also very exciting.
Going back to the framework.
Yes. Oh, it's also touchscreen too, by the way.
Just going back to the framework. I remember I was looking at frameworks quite a while ago, and there was something that bothered me, and I couldn't remember what it was. I was just looking on there. So they have a lot of upgradable stuff on the frameworks. But
yes.
one thing that gets me is that their memory is non-upgradable, which is a bit bizarre.
No, it is.
Considering everything else.
Not on the desktop. Not on the desktop, but it is on the laptops themselves.
Not the desktop as well.
The desktop you can't, but on the laptops you can.
You can on the laptops, is it?
Yes,
but not the desktop.
Right. So the reason for that was when the desktop came out last year, there was no way they couldn't get the performance out of the SODIMMs between the CPU and the memory because the bandwidth was too restricted. So I think because that was the real reason why. Now the new memory that they have for the Core Ultra 3, I believe they have a different. They don't use SODIMMs. They use something long LP. I don't remember now. Hang on. So all right, we'll find here LP Cam 2 memory, and that's a little closer to the soldered-on memory that you see on a MacBook or on the desktop, Framework Laptop desktop. So with this, also it reduces the amount of temperature, like it increases efficiency quite a bit. They get a lot of like temperature reductions and so forth as well by using this memory method. But essentially, my understanding, I haven't seen it yet, but the memory actually screws down into the main board that holds it in place. And so basically it exposes the pins, what would have been soldered on now, so you can actually have a module that you can replace.
Right.
The largest module, there's only one module.
That's the laptops you're talking about? Or?
What's that?
That's the laptops you're talking about, or desktop?
Yes. Yep, the laptops. Well, the LP
laptops,
Cam 2 is only on the Framework Laptop 13 Pro main board.
Okay, all right.
But
so
that main board will,
moving forward, they may.
Yeah, but like mine uses SODIMMs. My current one here uses SODIMMs, so I put a 64 gigabytes with the SODIMMs back when they were not expensive, like 1/6 the price or 1/5.
Yeah, that'll be crazy now. Yeah. Okay, that makes sense now that you said that. I was wondering why. So maybe they might move forward and maybe fix a desktop with that in the future, maybe, or maybe not possible.
Well, I'm sure they're probably going to look at that. The issue at the time was there was no way to get the performance out of the memory with so they had to have it soldered on for that.
Yeah, because it's quite a neat little desktop, isn't it? It's only small, but it's nice and neat. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Okay. I'll keep an eye on it. It is expensive, though, I must say, their prices, but especially for Australian prices anyway. But I like the idea of it.
Yeah, I think it's expensive. I think it depends on how you look at the price. If it's for whether it's long term or short, if you look at it long term or short term, if it's a long term thing, we're going to keep it long term. Then the price comes. Then it's not as much. But for me though, it's also those main boards. Right, like when I upgraded my main board, I gave my main board to my son, and then he got my main board, and then I have my younger son now has a Framework laptop as well with an 11th generation board. So if let's say I were to get a new main board again, or get my son a new main board, then my younger son can upgrade. So he can kind of like hand me down main boards as a family. So basically we can get multiple upgrades for the price of one. Does that make any sense? So if you have like a fleet of them.
Yeah, no, it does make sense for long term. I agree with that. Yeah, it does, because it's going to be cheaper in the long run rather than buying a complete new system. Yeah.
And if you go and you smash, go ahead. I'm sorry.
I was just going to say, imagine if you had a fleet of them, that it would be a really nice advantage to be able to just have that capability of literally just fixing things.
Yep.
So, yeah. So
at work right now, I have almost 50 Framework laptops, and either 15s or 16, 13s or 16s. And I've had to replace multiple screens. I have had to replace one keyboard already. And the nice thing is I don't have to send it in. It's a 5-minute job. I swap out the parts and it's done.
Right. Yeah, sounds good.
Yeah, so
yeah, I like the concept. I do. Keep looking, I suppose.
Yep. All right, so we're gonna get into the housekeeping real quick. So next week is a distro exploration. So we're gonna do Ubuntu, the latest Ubuntu 26.04. So choose your flavor, and then we'll discuss it and how it went for you, and we'll just have a conversation over that. A positive, but not, I should say, a practical conversation over it. We're not going to poo-poo on it because that's not what we do here. So hopefully we can get someone from the Ubuntu team over as well. And then also check out for the keep an eye on the cubiclite.com/polls. I'm going to have one up for application appetizer. So not next week obviously, or the week after, but the week after that, we're gonna put some applications out there for voting to see how it goes. So maybe we can kind of narrow it down to one, and then we can have other topics as well. Also, if you have any discussion suggestions, distro, application, any poll ideas, any suggestions you might have, send them to suggestions@linuxsaloon.com. Although I'm behind on my emails right now, I got like 800 some unread emails, so I apologize for that if you sent something recently. Also, you can send them, tag them on Discord or Telegram as well. And the show notes will be up after the show closes out. I did want to get to some feedback. I didn't get to this last time because we ran out of time, and I guess we're kind of out of time now, but whatever. It's all good. So this is from Advait. He said, for each of the panel members in Linux Saloon, what do you do if an upgrade messes up your system and you can't log in your system, but you can still get into Grub? Love to hear your response for the situation. Cheers. So what do you do?
There's one good answer.
What's that?
Chiroo.
I can answer that real quick.
Okay.
Running Tumbleweed, I just do a snapper rollback.
Well, okay.
That's cheating.
Smarty pants.
Tumbleweed is cheating.
That is cheating, and thank you, openSUSE, for doing that. Okay, I'm done.
I'm not going to belabor make a long speech about it, but yeah, chroot is basically a way for you to just boot your system, connect, or change root. So chroot is change roots. You're changing the root from your live into the old system or the installed system. You can then run an update. You can uninstall packages. You can basically treat it as though you're using that as the live system, and you fix whatever you just did basically, and then exit out, reboot, and most times that fixes the problem. And it's truly one of the magical things about Linux, how easy it can be to fix an oops, as long as you didn't delete a bunch of stuff and don't have a backup.
Right.
If you just messed up a configuration, you can pretty easily recover.
Yeah. So the only time I've had to go into...
Was there another answer?
I'm not sure. No, there were no answers. That was just one question. So the only time I ever had to go into a rescue mode on my system was when I had a really strange situation where I plugged into a dock station in my son's bedroom. This is last year. I wrote an article on this actually, and I had some criticisms on that as well for my choice. But the something got fouled up, and I had to do a disk check on there, FS file system check. And so I went into the recovery system to do the recovery because it wouldn't even boot. It couldn't even get through. I mean, it was so borked. And surprisingly, the Btrfs repair tools was able to completely fix it, and I didn't have to reinstall. And if there's any degradation in performance, I don't know. But it was something to do with the dock station, and my computer didn't get along this time, and it kind of caused it to freak out and had a kernel panic. So don't know about that. But so I guess chroot. I don't know if I
wanted to add one.
Sure.
Because it is possible that you could just mess up grub somehow. Don't need to go as far as a chroot, where you could actually just start like Ubuntu and then use there's a grub fix grub, I think they call it, and that'll rewrite your grub config, and sometimes that will be enough to get your boot back if you just messed up grub. But if that doesn't work, then you can chroot.
Yeah, MX
Linux.
MX Linux has some tools to solve a lot of those problems, and I keep one on the USB stick all the time just in case. So.
Yep, MX Linux is if you have to have one version of Linux with you on a key, that's the one.
Yeah,
you can even fix Windows with it if you really wanted to.
Sort of fix it. I mean, it's still fundamentally broken.
Yeah.
But the
thing is with that question though, is you've got to know what gone wrong, otherwise you don't know what you're fixing, right?
Yeah,
you've got to know what's gone wrong. On some occasions, right? It's not always.
No, but you can also presume if there's an error message, if there's in some cases it's going to be apparent, or you just did something like you installed something or you deleted something, or you know what I mean. But yeah, you're right. I mean, it's definitely, there are times where that could be the case, but.
I mean, this person's asking the question, so obviously whether he didn't, or that person, whether they did an update or whatever, and then it just rebooted and got a black screen. I mean, it'd be hard to tell what's wrong with it, sometimes. Graphics, mainly it's graphics driver probably, but,
Yeah.
It's a tough one.
I want to join the ranks. I want to join the ranks of the smug like Dale and be using openSUSE and have a snapshot.
I'll say before I went Tumbleweed and had that at my fingertips, I did use the boot repair, Ubuntu's boot repair disk. I did use that quite a bit, but I haven't had to use it since Tumbleweed. That's all.
So TimeShift is probably another option too. If you use TimeShift, you can actually, reboot your last good configuration anyway. That's handy.
Yeah, I was actually going to suggest that. Yeah, I was just going to suggest that you probably, if you're messing around with like the system, you should really have Snap or TimeShift enabled. Because I just did something to my power support, like daemon like 6 months ago, and I didn't have TimeShift on it. It's still messed up. I gotta wipe this computer out and fix it. But yeah, if you're messing around with stuff like that, you ought to have something that saves a snapshot.
Yeah.
And so Run the Dolphin says, Chroot rescue scan making easy on MX and Antix family distros. Yep. So I will put the link to that to MX Linux in the show notes. So if you have not, it's a great rescue tool for if you bork your system. If you don't have a snapshot or rollback type of distribution, that's one way to fix it. And even if you do, I'm sure it's possible to mess up Grub and Tumbleweed as well. I just have never done it. Maybe someday.
That's something.
Dale, I guess, is it the boot repair? I'm gonna put that in the show notes too.
There's something to aspire to. That's nice.
Yep. Someday I will actually. I did bork a Debian system at work this week. I don't know how, but I was able to rescue that one. But I just went and just did it. It was just a check disk that I had to do, FS disk, whatever. All right, Mike, you still there with me?
No.
Yeah, I imagine you didn't totally run away, only mostly. So you have a MarkLite update that I want you to get to, and so it's version 0.7. Is that where you're at?
Yes, that's correct. I rolled that out. Matter of fact, I did the rollout while we were online tonight. So, anyway, we're getting close to version 1.0. I mean, real close. I'm hoping this or the next release will be the last sub 1.0 version. I'd really like to get it into maintenance mode.
Okay.
So I can work on other stuff,
Oh yeah.
But basically, this version has a cleaned up snap package. If you want to run the snap version, I left a lot of things in the snap package for development. Really didn't need that I thought I might need one day. So I cleaned all that up and updated the libraries, and I actually went in and fixed a little bug that I introduced when refactoring code on saving files. And
was that my fault?
No.
Okay.
What was happening was, it was kind of a weird thing. You know, different OSs handle these operations differently. So what was happening was I had basically an object there that would keep up with the status of the document, if it was saved or not. Okay. So if you went to exit and it said, you know, would you like to save the document such and such if you had made changes to it, right? Mm-hmm. Well, what would happen is you'd say yes, it would save it, and then it would pop right back up again with the same message. And what it was actually that was really on the Windows version that I'm working on, and Windows was introducing that itself. So I was handling it in code, and Windows was trying to do it also. So there you
go.
Okay.
But so how much split do you have then of the code between your Linux and your Windows version then?
Oh, they're 100%.
The same or split?
The same.
Oh, okay.
You can check what the OS is and do things based on what the OS is.
Gotcha.
So, yeah. What else? I rewrote the keyboard handler to make it a little more efficient. It had kind of turned into spaghetti, and I sent you and Jenda a copy to take a look at, kind of, and Jenda was going to test it, and I basically broke the keyboard handler. So went back in and had a little tiny typo in there, so we got that taken care of. So it's all nice and clean now. But anyway, really all I think I have left to do, I'm not going to add many more features, if any, to it. I want to do some deep system level testing on, you know, make sure I don't have any memory leaks and things like that. And then after that, I think I'm going to go ahead and release it as a 1.0 version, and then at that point it'll just be in maintenance mode. So
sweet,
we're almost there.
So what we got to do to get you to submit it as a package to be in the Tumbleweed main repository?
Well, I'll probably do it to the Ubuntu repository first. But once I get it into maintenance mode, then I can start focusing on things like putting in other distros, PVP stores, and making a Flatpak, those kind of things.
Sweet. So, that's awesome. That's really awesome. Well, the Windows version works very well, and that's why I was asking about the how much the code was different. But I guess you already answered that question. So there we go.
Yeah, well, you know, that's one of the nice things about Flutter, the Flutter and Dart, is they have system level functions that work on any OS, but they work a little different depending on the OS. Really good job at that. So I really appreciate his help with that.
And some people have a natural knack for such things.
Well, you know, I mean, hey, why not exploit those attributes, right? Mm-hmm. So anyway, so yeah, that's where I'm at with it, and I've gotten some pretty good feedback from some people, and I was amazed how many people wanted me to add all the features to make it a full-blown editor. And I'm like, no, you're missing the point here. You know, there are already, you know, 24 full-blown Markdown editors out there. So,
yeah.
But what made me feel good was Zeb loaded it, and the first thing he said, "My God, that's fast." So that was good to hear from him. So
yeah, and if you use a Markdown editor that is also a Flatpak,
right?
So something like Apostrophe or one of those, there's a noticeable lag whenever it opens.
Yeah.
And yeah, when you open yours, it's like bam, it's just like it was like it was already there or something. Yeah.
Yeah, I know.
It does act like it's already in memory, which is pretty cool.
Yeah. Well, a lot of that is because of the way that Dart handles initializations. To me, Dart is one of the most overlooked languages out there, and it is a fantastic language. It really has a lot of great attributes. It's multi-platform. You can get it on just about any platform. And its companion framework, Flutter, this is really cool. Theoretically, you could write a native app in Flutter and then also have a web version of it and a mobile version of it by simply recompiling for those platforms. But of course, there's interface issues to take into consideration there, but yeah. So, and you can do it across multiple OSs also. So after I get the Windows version sorted, I'm going to have a Mac version also.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Can you work on a Commodore 64
this is a Markdown editor.
I'm sorry, what?
Colin is more serious than me. That's okay, Colin.
Go ahead, Colin.
What's that? No, I was asking, this is a Markdown editor because I'm a little bit behind on all this because I haven't heard anyone talk about this before. So
it's a viewer. If you go to marklite.app in your browser, it kind of explains. I developed it because I wanted a fast Markdown viewer, but I also wanted to be able to edit it. I wanted to make any minor changes to the file. So,
all right, got it.
Yeah, you can make it as your default viewer for .md files, and it's extremely fast. So,
I'll check it out.
yeah, I appreciate it. Any feedback you have, please let me know, because I do appreciate feedback.
Yep.
But anyway, yeah. So got another couple of apps I've been working on. I've got another one out there called Resize All. It's working. I haven't really spent much time on it, but I'll probably get back on it after I get MarkLite into a maintenance mode. And it's just an app that allows you to bulk resize images for the web. So it lowers the DPI and just the quality, and it does it across the whole directory, and then gives you a subdirectory under that directory called small with all the resized images in it. So,
it's pretty slick. It's a real slick tool, like a single purpose tool.
It is.
Just keep it used when you need it. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a very specific tool. It's not like a mass application, but I have a need for that quite often, and a few people in here. I think you're using it, aren't you, Dale? Or your wife is?
Yeah, my wife is using it, and it's simple enough for her to use and understand it, but it's powerful enough to do what I want her to do with images before she puts it on my server.
Right.
You know, I don't want her uploading 200 gigabyte images.
Right.
Yeah, so the whole idea of that app is exactly what you just said. It's for people who are not graphic designers to prepare images for the web. And it's real simple. It, instead of a height and a width, it just asks you the width. And it does a lot of things in the background, which some people would probably like to adjust who know those things. But for your average person, it just does the job. So
what's nice is
Yeah, it cuts the size way down of the image also, which is better for the web, obviously.
Right. What's nice is I can use that like a when I'm writing an article or whatever. I have a bunch of pictures. I just take the pictures, I throw them in the folder, and then I can just select that folder, creates the folder of all the smaller images, and then I just use those. And to me, it's a time saver tool. So
it is. It's a huge time saver. I mean, there are other apps that do this, but they're mostly on Windows. And this has allowed me to do both a Windows and a Linux version of it. So
that's neat. Put in Microsoft Store.
You know, I thought about it, but I went and looked at it, and honestly, I'm really not that interested in doing that.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I mean, just because that's not a place that I frequent often, and they want you to do the support for those things, and people ask questions and stuff inside the store and all that, and I'm just, I just don't want to. I'd rather them, email me directly and ask me the questions. So.
I got you. Makes sense.
But anyway, so yeah, that'll probably be the next thing I work on, just to kind of tweak it a little bit, make it a little faster, a little slicker, that kind of stuff. So
cool.
Well, so that's what I've been up to. One other quick thing, which we can discuss another day. I don't want to get into it because we're already running late. But I've been trying out NetBird for the last week, which is a lot Tailscale. Mm-hmm. And the big difference with it, though, is it is 100% open source. And you can actually set up the server locally if you don't want to use their service. But I got to use it this week traveling some, and it was really nice. It worked really well. I was very impressed. I think their free plan gives you like five users and 100 devices. But I've got at home, I've got my workstation, my dev server, my Windows development machine, my little mini Mac, and my laptop computer down in my workshop. So, and it's nice to be able to, do whatever you need to do from wherever. It's like your own little mini local network. So
yeah, no, that's neat. Well, very good. All right. So I guess that's that. Thank you very much for that, Mike. I'll have the links in the show notes after we're all done. It is time for last call. We're high time for last call, actually. But I don't know. I had fun today, even though my network kind of kicked me in the teeth. So with that, real quick around the room, Dale, I don't know if you have anything you want to share.
I just uploaded a video a little while ago that's me switching from Kmail back to Thunderbird and why.
Okay.
Should say switching again. And I should have more time next week to make videos. I forgot it was Sweetie's week this week.
Oh. So I will definitely check that out. I wonder if it aligns with my reasons. We'll compare notes next week.
Well, it was just another update where it quit pulling email from the server, and it's time for me to move on, I believe.
Mm-hmm. Yep, I got that. I got the video queued up. Eric, what do you got? Anything exciting?
No, I'm just been. I didn't record anything this week, so yeah, just the latest episodes of Mintcast and Linux OTC, and then Sorry. And then, yeah, I'm gonna switch to openSUSE to Tumbleweed on here. Still wrestling with GNOME versus Plasma. I kind of feel like I want to force myself to use Plasma just because, you know, I just feel like it's been long enough, and I want to have the experience of using it. And the only way that'll happen is if I kind of force myself to.
About it.
Yeah, I know, but I don't know.
I hear you. It's all good.
It's not the same as just committing, you know.
I got you. Do one machine with GNOME, the other one with Plasma, and see like which one you like using more.
I've got GNOME on the Latitude, or yes, and then I can have Plasma on the, because GNOME is still better on the touchscreen, no matter what anyone says. You know, Plasma Touch is good on the touchscreen, but regular Plasma isn't as good. So
just for the record, I have a Lenovo 3-in-1, and I put GNOME on there, and because everybody said it was better for touchscreen, I hated it. I couldn't figure out how to use it. Well, and KDE Plasma does everything that I need it to do in touchscreen mode.
Yeah, see, I compared to GNOME though, I mean it does, but the on-screen keyboard to me for Plasma, and I know they just updated it, which may change my opinion, but it was just absolutely frustrating compared to how straightforward GNOME is with. And I mean, GNOME's interface is sort of built for touching and stuff like that. So.
Yeah, I get that. The brand new KDE Plasma virtual keyboard is out. You won't have to mess with the MarkLite anymore, so that helps.
Yeah, that's what I'm looking forward to. So I may test it out. We'll see. But I'm just ready to move on to after not having thought about it for such a long time. It's kind of like I'm putting in the effort of trying out different things. So.
Good deal. Thanks so much for being here, and you can always hit me up anytime for any questions. But
I had my double dose today. You kidding me?
Yeah, I know. Yeah, you gotta be sick of me at this point. Shaston.
Hey, what's up?
What you got?
What am
Thanks
I
for being
doing?
here.
Yeah, no problem. Just got off a really long stream, and let's see. Finished my NeoVim 0.12 fig. I started a couple of agentic projects this week, and I started my own distro. I'm going to make a void-based distro, and it's going to be quite unique. That's all I can say.
Well, good deal.
Yeah.
Make sure you share the share more in the future when you're ready.
I will.
Colin.
Yo.
Thanks so much for being here.
Yeah, no worries. It's been a pleasure to be here again. It's been a while.
And
probably see you again, hopefully another 3 weeks.
Yeah.
4 weeks or whatever it is.
Well, that'll be great. It's always a happy day to see you on here.
Thanks, mate.
Yep.
It's always good to be here.
Penguin. Did you fall asleep?
Sorry, I had to find a button. Yeah.
They tend to move around.
Yeah, we tend to move around all the time. Sorry I was late, but work called and everything was broken. So I had to go and help them fix everything.
Gotcha.
Yeah, but I've got just what's going on. I've got a video already made for Monday. Monday it's gonna go live, and then Friday another one's gonna go live, and probably one in the thing because I'm gonna start making content now that things are slowing up at the office. So hopefully we can get that going again.
Well, good deal. Well, thanks for being here, and hopefully things don't break again tomorrow night.
Oh, they will. We're moving to a new version. They're moving to a new version of Red Hat on a lot of the servers. So things just, it's just part of the upgrade process.
Gotcha. Okay. Jinda, appreciate you breaking things. Thank you for breaking my network this morning, or earlier today.
Yes, after I tortured Michael and used this program, MarkLite, and destroyed it. And
yeah.
Gave him a list a mile long of what's wrong with it, which he fixed in 5 minutes.
Well, he does have talent.
Yeah.
More like luck.
Tolerance. He has a high threshold for tolerance.
Sometimes luck is better.
Yeah,
that's right.
And Mike, thanks for being here, sharing more about what you're doing.
It's always my pleasure, and great group of folks to hang out with and discuss things. And I learn a lot from this group, and we'll continue to. So.
Yeah, I think we're pretty decent here. Some of us more decent than others. So.
Well, don't talk about gender behind. Okay.
Well, he wasn't paying attention, so it's okay. All right, I have a podcast called Linux Out Loud. You can check that out. I also have a website called keepinglinux.com where the show notes will be on for this after the fact. So also, thank you all for your support, how we do it, being a part of this conversation, both the Discord, voice chat, video chat, whatever you want to call it, and being in the YouTube stream, as well as for everyone watching the show after the fact. I thank everyone involved in making Linux and open source tools possible for us to not only have this conversation, but also to have fun and enjoy our technology. Linux truly puts personal back into personal computer. Thank you for stopping by. Be sure to tip your developers, and please remember to Linux responsibly. Until next time, see you.
Bye.